Welcome to the next edition of Technically Speaking with Perimeter 83 at the University of Advancing Technology. For those of you that aren't familiar with Perimeter 83, we are the B2B side of the university, and we handle all the outside partnerships, professional service project opportunities. We do have a co-working space on campus that is normally open, but we're temporarily closed for the time being. We should be reopening shortly, so if you're interested in that, just let me know. So today we have Aaron Jones joining us. Aaron, an Arizona Threat Liaison Officer, is a software developer who currently creates applications for law enforcement. He is also an AZ Post-certified public speaker and is considered a subject matter expert in digital forensics. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Aaron, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing? So my name's Aaron Jones, and as was stated, I work for the Chandler Police Department out here in Arizona. But in addition to that, I'm also an instructor at the University of Advancing Technology. And I am absolutely thrilled to have this opportunity to speak to all of you about a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart. I won't go super into detail on why, but I will tell you that my grandmother was a victim of phishing, and that led to her losing quite a bit of money about maybe 10 years ago-ish, maybe. During that period of time, I was in the Texas State Guard. So with that said, I am a big proponent of people being able to take care of themselves. So I am going to just jump right into it. My understanding is I have approximately 30 minutes to try to give you all as absolutely much information as I possibly can. So I'm going to share my screen here. And at this point, what you should see is a web browser with my picture there, and we will jump right into it. So let's start with, what is phishing? Phishing is actually pretty interesting because it can take several forms, but what we typically understand phishing as is an attempt for somebody to offer you something in exchange for you taking an action that they can then use as an exploit. And so what I mean by that is I might send you an email, and previously, many years ago, the email would typically consist of something like a offer of nude celebrity photographs or something like that. Something that would be typically considered at the time rare, if not very difficult for people to get. And in addition to that, enticing enough that somebody may be willing to lower their guard in order to gain access to that thing without really concerning themselves with if stuff looks weird, right? The expectation would be that if you're going to go to a web page where they're leaking photographs of people, that web page, if it's not very well built, or it looks kind of strange, or it requires you to install something or something like that, for somebody who's kind of desperate, they may do that. Eventually, it began to also evolve into just getting people to do it on a level that included something like, hey, I live in Africa, an unnamed country in Africa, or Nigeria or whatever, and I need you to click on this link, or I need you to download a file, and upon doing so, you're going to send me $5,000, and then eventually, somehow, I'm going to smuggle $1 million out of my country, and we'll share the money. We'll split the cash as soon as I can make it to the United States. That's an extremely famous, very old method that still, to this day, occasionally goes the rounds. People will still catch emails that will have something offering in exchange for you helping them. Like I said, previously it was Africa. Nowadays it's oftentimes the Middle East. They'll say something like, I'm stuck in Iraq, or I'm stuck in Afghanistan. I worked with a bunch of US soldiers. We found some gold bars. I have $1.7 million in gold bars. I have no way to get to the United States. I need you to send me $10,000, and as soon as you do, I can send you more money or whatever. And of course, essentially what they do is you send them $1,000, they tell you, oh, it wasn't enough, they need a bribe. Okay, so you send them more money, and so on and so forth. And really what they're doing is they're taking advantage of the human need to feel like they're succeeding, while exploiting that, they're able to take whatever it is that they want from people. And oftentimes it's a multifold method that they use to attack people. What they're going to do is they're going to ask for money. You give them money. Then they're going to say, well, I need somebody to sponsor my visa. Send me your name, your driver's license, your home address, and your social security number. So then that person, desperate, having already sunk cost, right? They already have a sunk cost here. They're $1,000 in. So now they give all of their information to this person. And now in addition to that, they're going to be victimized now with identity theft on top of the money that they lose as part of this issue, and then so on and so forth. The type of scam that is going to affect you, however, oftentimes is also going to be involved in a multi-scale phishing attack. And so what I mean by that is, if I'm sitting here at my computer and I receive an email, and that email says, hey, it's your sister. I'm down in Mexico and I just got arrested and I need $500. And if you don't give me the $500, the Mexican police have said that they're going to make me disappear. Maybe I panic. And so I send the $500 immediately, because that message came from my sister's email address. At that point, what they are really doing is they have broken into a system, gained access to an email address, and then they've gone out to contact other people off of their friends list or otherwise list of contacts. And now they know that they have also victimized me. So perhaps when they sent me that link that said, hey, this is where you need to go to pay the $500 fee in Mexico, maybe I have now downloaded something onto my computer, so they have now victimized me as well. So not only have they gotten my $500 from me, now they have access to my computer and potentially access to my emails, and then they spread out from there. This is really, really popular right now by phone call. We receive a lot of reports in the city of Chandler of elderly individuals who receive phone calls, and typically what will end up happening is they receive a phone call. That phone call will include the sound of somebody screaming in the background and maybe the sound of somebody being beaten. And then that person will be told, if you don't give us money, your family member who we have captured will be harmed. Also, if you tell law enforcement or you tell anybody while you're withdrawing that money, we will kill or otherwise get rid of your family member. And so you have to keep this a secret. If you don't keep it a secret and you don't just send us the money, we'll do terrible things to your family. And so people see that and they get involved in this, and it absolutely terrifies them. And oftentimes they will attempt to keep whatever it is that they're doing a secret from family members, from others, from law enforcement, whatever, until it's too late. They've lost quite a bit of money. The most amount of money that I have ever seen somebody lose to a phishing scam involving somebody contacting them over the telephone was somewhere in the range of like $175,000 that they ended up liquidating out of all of their accounts, thinking that they were going to accomplish something. So the FTC warns us about phishing. The FBI warns us about phishing. In addition to that, and we'll get to it in just a moment, but the FBI also provides us fantastic information about who's actually conducting these scams, who's getting caught, what they're being charged for, and then eventually what they're being arrested for. So let's start with our recognizing phishing now that we know what it is and what some of the harm that can come from it. Unsolicited phone calls asking you to take action, typically with some form of urgency, is going to be a phishing issue. If somebody at a bank contacts you and says, if you don't do X, we're going to foreclose your house immediately, with no warning, no letters, no nothing, it just comes over a phone call, I can guarantee you that's phishing. any kind of threat from law enforcement, which would include the IRS, it would include your local law enforcement, your sheriff's office, any of those individuals reaching out and stating, we're going to come and arrest you if you don't pay X amount of money. Do you notice how it's a story, right? Every single phishing attack that is typically successful has a story to it, whether it's a story that is a description or it's a story that is going to be built from what you're seeing when you look at the attack. So here's another one. If you have an account like with Amazon, maybe you'll receive an email that says something like a $3,000 charge has been charged to your Amazon account. We need to check with you to make sure if that $3,000 charge is good, or if that $3,000 charge can be considered valid. And so immediately you look in that email and you see, click here to log in, and you click and the screen looks like an Amazon.com login. And so you put in your information, and lo and behold, maybe it pops up and it says something like, I'm sorry, we're working on our servers right now. You cannot log in. Please check back later. But really what you've done is you've given your username and your password to your Amazon account to an individual who's now going to use that data to make a whole bunch of purchases, ship those purchases to mules here within the United States, mule being a term used for individuals involved in the buying, selling, trading, and shipping of stolen goods. Typically, they're tricked into doing this, but they're still held responsible. So it's important to remember that if you are a mule or you're tricked into becoming a mule, you will still be prosecuted. And then you'll see this involving scams that say something like, we'll ship Amazon products directly to your house. You package them up like it's for a birthday or a gift or something, and then ship them on to somebody else. What's really happening is you're receiving stolen goods and then you're shipping those stolen goods on. So when the FBI shows up at your house to arrest you, and they ask you, well, where did you ship all this stuff? Typically, the person is not going to keep all that data. Maybe they do, but even then it doesn't matter because you've already shipped it all overseas. You've shipped it to Europe, you shipped it to Australia, whatever. And so now you're left holding the bag because you receive stolen goods and then you push them on. And whether you got paid for it or not, it doesn't matter. Plus, since they treated it like a job, next thing that you get is your identity stolen because they're going to use your driver's license, social, and all your information that they collected when they told you that you were getting a real job. If you notice something, I'm from Texas originally, and so what we like to call this is using the whole steer. You don't let anything go to waste, right? If I'm going to phish you, I'm going to scam you out of money, I'm going to do something, well, I want everything, right? I'm going to go after your contacts. I'm going to go after your business contacts. I'm going to go after your friends. I'm going to go after your family. I'm going to go after everybody because there's money on the table and we don't want to leave a single cent on that table. It's not like they're just going to break into your computer, hope you give them $500 and then delete all of the additional information. They'll go into your network and they will conduct something like a ransomware attack in which they encrypt all the data on your network and then charge you a fee to get it back. All the better if you connect it to your employer's network. And so now they get to attack your employer as well. And this happens absolutely all the time. But phishing itself, the idea is give them a sense of urgency, charging bills, account closure, foreclosure, potentially getting arrested. There needs to be a sense of urgency. There's a reason why you need to click this right now and you need to be panicked so you don't pay attention to anything else. Sense of urgency, story, a purchase was made, somebody is looking for you, the FBI needs to speak to you, the DEA is interested in purchases made on your credit card. What's another one that I've seen? Local law enforcement believes that you have an outstanding ticket. And maybe you've never had a ticket in your life and now you're thinking to yourself, where did I make this mistake? I better hit this button right now and put in all my data and hit submit, because if I don't, potentially a police department is going to come in and they're going to arrest me in front of my family and I'm going to be terrified or embarrassed or anything like that. So those are your goals, right? Back in the day, it was about showing you dirty pictures of Britney Spears or something similar. Today, nowadays, it's not about that. It's about gaining access to funds, gaining access to money, convincing you that there's something wrong, providing you a story, and getting you to click. Another one would be somebody calling you on the phone or sending you an email telling you that your computer's infected and they want to help you. Help is oftentimes used as a method to exploit others, whether it's them claiming that they want to help you or claiming that they need help from you. Typically, people, especially here within the United States, we help people. We give to charity. We help people. If you were to call up somebody on the phone and tell them, hey, do you want to give money to the Orphans of Firefighters Fund? If you made that phone call 500 times, you would probably get 299 or 300 people who are going to say yes and are going to provide money. But the reality is that especially nowadays, what they're really doing is they're collecting your personal information, they're getting a profile on you, and then they're using that to attack people. It's one of the reasons why the AARP, or American Association of Retired People, individuals who are higher up in age, those databases get leaked constantly, and then they use that to conduct attacks on the elderly. They specifically attack them because, especially as you start hitting certain ages, things like cognitive issues show up. And they know this. So if you're in your 70s, oftentimes it's much easier to convince that person that maybe you're a grandson or a granddaughter, or that you're a family member. Finally calling. It's been 6 months and you haven't called, but now you're finally picked up the phone and, hey, grandma, it's me, and boy, I'm really having a hard time. Why is that? Well, because I need $500. And what's the first thing they do? They say, okay, well, I'll get you the $500. Don't worry about it. Thinking that it's family members or kids, grandkids, whatever. That's a super popular one. Now, earlier on during the talk, I just want to bring this to your all attention. This right here, this list that I brought up on the screen, if you see the number one item here is amazon.co.uk.security-check.ga. These are the kinds of URLs that they're going to use to try to get you to click. If I need you to quote unquote update your Apple device, update-apple.com.beta-wi-hosting.net. The hope is that you just look right here at this part and you see, oh, update Apple. Yeah, update Apple, that makes sense. I will go ahead and just click that right now. These are the kinds of things that you're looking for, because this list alone, just updated approximately 15-20 minutes ago is when I pulled this, and we're at 26,854 URLs, and every single one of these are hostile. Somebody is using one of these to execute attacks as we speak. And you can just see it just goes on and on with stuff like myeverydaylife.net, curiouser-desserts.com, Google AdSense.biz, but 1, 2, 3, 4 O's. That's probably not how you spell Google, right? The idea here is that you're going to see the words Google, and maybe you're going to pull out ad, and it looks like sense is probably spelled wrong too, right? Not correct, but just good enough that if I make my money off of Google AdSense and I get an email that says, hey, Google AdSense is about to shut down your account. So that means for the entire time my Google AdSense account is down, I'm potentially losing, let's say, $65,000 a day. I'm going to be concerned, like immediately concerned about whatever that email says. And potentially I'm going to be so concerned that I'm going to overlook that issue. I have about 10 minutes, so I want to jump one more item in because it's very important when it comes to phishing, and that's protecting your social media account. So I want to show you somebody. And this individual, you might recognize her. She's actually one of the most important individuals in cybersecurity. And if you don't know why, and you don't know who she is, well, I'll tell you. And her name is Tinkerbell the dog. And you can see in every single one of these images right here, old Tinkerbell, she is so important to cybersecurity. And you might be thinking to yourself, why is Tinkerbell the dog so important to cybersecurity? Well, if you notice, there's a human attached in pretty much every single one of these photos. And that human is named Paris Hilton. And let me tell you what ended up happening. Paris Hilton had a T-Mobile Sidekick telephone back when T-Mobile Sidekick telephones were popular. And what Paris Hilton did was she uploaded all of her contacts. She uploaded all of her important data. Essentially everything that she was digitally was on that T-Mobile Sidekick. So what an individual did was contacted T-Mobile and said, I'm Paris Hilton. And they said, okay, well, what's your favorite pet's name? And the guy said, well, my favorite pet's name is actually Tinkerbell. And they said, oh, yeah, yep, it is. You are absolutely correct. And what do you want to change your password to? And they allowed that gentleman to change the password to her phone and then move the phone to another device so they could download all of her contacts, everybody that she knows, a whole bunch of financial data, just everything that made Paris Hilton who she was digitally, that individual was able to steal. All because her password reset question was, who's your favorite pet? And her favorite pet at that time was Tinkerbell the dog. So you could essentially open up any magazine during that period of time and you would know how to reset Tinkerbell's, reset Tinkerbell's account, right? Reset Paris Hilton's account. So Tinkerbell is well known within the cybersecurity community as one of the most important cybersecurity figures, simply because her name was the catalyst for an attack that has continued on to today. If you didn't know, people continue to phish celebrities who have met Paris Hilton because people continuously have used contact information from that list, because for some of these people, they have never changed their phone numbers. They've never changed their email addresses. Her account was broken into, but like we said, right, you use the whole steer, the whole cow. And so what did the whole cow consist of? That meant every single one of her contacts also started to become victims. And so if you look hard enough, you will occasionally find reports of certain criminal activity related to celebrities here within the United States. And more often than not, Snoop Dogg, some of these other individuals who have had identity issues regarding like their credit cards being stolen, things like that. A lot of them can actually track back some of those early attacks to with their data being leaked because of Paris Hilton. So I make it a point to always show off Tinkerbell the dog whenever it comes to cybersecurity. So I have 5 minutes. Let me talk to you for just a moment about how do we protect ourselves from some of these attacks. Number one is you can use a host file, okay? This is a unified host file. This one allows you to pick and choose what you want to block. So if you want to block adware and malware, there are 57,545 unique domains in this list alone. We click here and you can see right here, all of these are constantly being updated, but every single one of these is a confirmed URL being used for the delivery of adware and malware. You can also block things like porn using this. You can use it for blocking things like gambling sites, so on and so forth. And they have different lists that they've put together. So depending on what you want to pick and choose, if you want to get rid of social media and social links, typically those are called trackers. Somebody like Facebook, you visit your Facebook account, they gather a ton of information about you, and then you go to another web page, and then they sell the data about you to the person that you just went to their webpage and visited. That is also oftentimes used because I can be a bad actor, right? And I can buy information from Facebook. So when I explain to you how this stuff is used, yes, there is a theoretically legitimate business use for me as a business owner, going out and buying information about somebody who maybe uses Facebook, and then they come to my webpage to look because I make cakes. So I pay Facebook a little bit of money so I can get that information. But if I'm a bad person, I can also pay Facebook and I can get some of your information, and then I can start using that in order to conduct attacks using a plethora of other methods. Now, this is pretty much your easiest way of doing this. There's instructions if you were to come here. There's tons of stuff on how to upload a host file. They even have methods to automate this. And then they also have links to other sources if you want to just look at theirs. I actually use Stephen Black's ad hoc list all the time. Love it. And I have a few of these other ones in there as well. It's the idea being here that you don't want your computer to ever be able to communicate with any of these addresses anyways. And of course, the URLs change on a regular basis, so you have to keep up with it. And again, there's automated ways to do that. This is kind of the entry-level technical method to protect your network against bad actors, particularly those using phishing. Because if somebody is doing a targeted attack against Amazon addresses, just like we saw down here, amazon.co.uk.security-check. Well, if I was going to get this email and somebody was going to try to use this against me, it's most likely in one of these unified host files, which means this is going to be blocked. It's never even going to load. So even if I screw up and I make a mistake and I hit that link, as soon as I hit that link, it's just going to say, hey, this page can't load. Your next item to look into, if you're much more technically literate, is to run your own DNS network. Pi-hole is a method to do that. I run Pi-hole for my family. This is a network-wide ad blocking as well as malware and adware blocking system. They advertise it as ad blocking. You could use this for a ton of stuff. And once you have this set up, you can use it to protect your network by changing it so that anytime you try to go to a web page, essentially your traffic goes from your computer to your Pi-hole, and then the Pi-hole says, well, this is a malware address. I'm just not going to allow this to come back into your network. And so then you're unable to connect to any of those URLs. And of course, this helps you automate it all. It keeps it up to date on a regular basis. It's just a fantastic tool. And in addition to that, it allows you to monitor your network for bad behavior. Again, you would probably need to be a little bit more technically literate to be able to install something like this. And for those of you who are interested in going to a school, UAT would teach you to be computer literate enough to do this, I guarantee it. But if you feel like you'd like to discuss this, feel free to reach out to me. I don't mind telling people about it or giving a little demo or something like that later on or at a different date. But these are fantastic tools. The web interface is super simple. It gives you graphics over everything, and it just lets you know what's going on your network. So with that said, that's my 30 minutes. Just want to touch on a handful of items real quick just to kind of to recap. Phishing can include attacks through text message. They can include attacks through links on websites, emails. They can be telephone calls. They can be voice over IP, and they can be through social media. So just because somebody reaches out to you doesn't necessarily mean that they're trustworthy, okay? Next order of business is oftentimes what they will do is they're going to give you a story that includes a sense of urgency. So when you receive some kind of thing, they want you to do something. They need you to take action. Click, press a button, give them information, provide data about yourself, okay? They need you to take action, sense of urgency. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be attacked. You're going to lose out on $1 million, billion, trillion, gazillion dollars. Somebody's going to see dirty pictures of you, something. They're going to say something to you in order to frighten you so that you have that sense of urgency, so that you take the action that they want without thinking too hard about why they want you to do it. And then after that, it's time to use the entire cow, right? They're going to attack you. They're going to go through your contacts. They're going to attack people that you know. They're going to try to get money from people. They're going to try to extort you. They're going to ask for you to take certain actions or help them to extort other people. And then at the end of the day, they may even take pictures of you through your webcam. We've had incidents that include things like young women losing access to stuff like their Instagram or their cell phone photos, including like nude photos of themselves, and then they use that to try to blackmail them. I'll take all these nude photos of you that you took and I'll send them to your family if you don't take a certain action, so on and so forth, or produce more for us. That's another type of attack that they use. What can you do to protect yourself? Don't click. Make sure that you read things. Never go to web pages through any kind of link that is provided to you by somebody. You don't go to Amazon through a link that's provided by an email. If they tell you to go to Amazon and check your account, go to your web browser, go to Amazon.com, log in, and then contact Amazon and tell them, I received an email that says do X. I don't trust it, and it's coming from amazon.com. This looks incorrect to me. And typically they'll actually point you towards the FBI so that you can report this stuff. So with that said, I think I can stop sharing here, and that's my 30 minutes. Can you still use, if you don't mind, can I answer these questions real quick?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so one of the questions that was presented is, can you still use VPNs with Pi-hole? You absolutely can. If you want to use a VPN with Pi-hole, you can. However, what you need to do when you set up your VPN, and this is if you're running your own VPN, is you need to set up the VPN to use Pi-hole as the DNS, which is typically something that you can do within your configuration files. Like if you're using OpenVPN, you can actually go into the OpenVPN and not change your DNS whenever it pushes configurations to your system. You can just use your DNS. In addition to that, if you run your own VPN server, no problem. Just set up your VPN to use whatever address it is for your Pi-hole, and then you can use that DNS that way. So the correct answer to your question is yes, you can still use your VPN. However, again, you have to be a little bit more technical literate because you're going to have to go in there and change the DNS address for your VPN. It's really easy if you're using OpenVPN. If you're not using OpenVPN, I'm not exactly sure how you would do it, but I would assume you could contact your VPN provider and just tell them, hey, I don't want to change DNS, and then you're fine. With that said, I think that answers it. Okay, cool, awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, this is actually scheduled from 11 to 12. We just try to keep the presentation to 30 minutes. So if you have any questions for Aaron, please type them in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we can get those answered for you. And Aaron, I do have a question too. When you mentioned those host lists that had the list of domains, where did those get put into settings or device, or is it at the router level? Or
Oh, sure. So you have some options with that. You can do it at the router level if you'd like. This system right here, I'm gonna just real quick, let me okay. I wanted to make sure that I don't have any of my private networking stuff inside my Etsy host right now. Let me share my screen real quick and I'll show you how to do it on a Linux computer. So this is my personal computer. If we type in Etsy hosts, so that's, I'm doing, you know what, I'm not going to use sudo right now. Vim. Vim is a text editor, and then /etc/hosts. We hit that, and then all you need to do is add a new line, and then you can just type something like Amazon.com. And if you were to do something like this in your Etsy host on a Linux computer like mine, Amazon.com won't work on your computer anymore. You wouldn't be able to go to any URL that has Amazon.com as the actual host name. That's essentially what you're going to do. Is there's actual scripts that you can run that would add all of those addresses directly to the Etsy host file on a regular basis. You can set it up on a cron job. You can do it by hand. You have a lot of options, but you can do it here. In addition to that, if you're running the Pi-hole or something like Pi-hole, you can do it actually within the configurations for the Pi-hole and allow the Pi-hole to handle it. I have 87,000 plus host files that are blocked on my Pi-hole, and I'm sorry, not host files, hosts, actual domain names. Approximately 87,000 of them are blocked, and the thing updates on a every hourly basis. So you can do it directly on your computer. You could do it at the router. If you want to do it at the router, you can do that, or you can do it using something like Pi-hole and using your DNS to do it. Lots of options. Each one's going to be different for different people because I've met students who their family does not want them to mess with their router. Can't change the DNS, can't change anything, don't touch it, blah, blah, blah. They're completely not allowed to do that, but they want to protect themselves. They can do it locally to their laptop using an Etsy host file. And then I've met police officers who have contacted me and asked me, hey, can you come over to my house and help me set up my network? And one of the first things I do is block all malware traffic, set that up on a loop so it automatically updates and sends them a message and says that the update has worked. And then I just leave them a note that says, here's my cell phone number. If you don't receive one of these messages, you know, every 2 weeks or whatever, let me know and I'll come back over to your house and take care of it. So lots of options, lots of different ways of handling it. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. I was just wondering, it's a long list, so I wasn't sure if there was any way that you could automate that process and keep it updated without having to thumb through that manually. So
yeah, the Pi-hole method is my favorite method. I think that's the best one, just on account of the fact that by doing it at the DNS level, it would also work with your cell phone. Because here's the issue. Most of us can't actually run things like ad blocker, and we can't run malware blockers on our cell phone because, like an Apple phone, it won't allow you to do it. You can't mess with things like your Etsy hosts on an Apple device. But if you block it at the DNS level, then your device is not going to allow that traffic, and they can't do anything about it. There's no way for Apple to stop you because it's never going to make it through your network.
Got it. That's super helpful, I'm sure, since everything is mobile phone and tablets at this point, mostly. Yeah. So, all right.
And just one more point off of that is I really like the fact that by doing it in a centralized area, specifically for all of your devices, there's only one place that you have to go in and update. You update the Pi-hole once every couple of days or whatever, or once a day, and all of your devices essentially function off of that, and you don't have to come back and fiddle with each individual device or have problems related to, like, just case in point, I was blocking certain ad providers that work for Google, and therefore certain things on YouTube were not working, but I wasn't at home. So when my wife gave me a phone call and said, hey, YouTube's not working, I realized what was going on. I was able to just log into my Pi-hole, make the fix there, and as soon as I made that repair, then all of the devices at home started working, and I was able to remotely administer that with no issues. Just stuff like that to keep in mind as you decide to add on to this stuff. The more work you do on your network, the more you're going to become the tech support person for that network. So make your life easy as you possibly can.
Yes, it sounds like you could probably use that for some parental controls too. Be like, I'm not sure why YouTube isn't working, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, doing it off of the Etsy hosts, if you give your child a laptop and you are the only one who can administer those files, you don't give them root access and therefore they can't edit like Etsy hosts. You can go in there and essentially turn off porn, and you can turn off whatever it is that you don't want them going to, and their device, no matter where they go, they're not going to be able to connect. In addition to that, even if they use a VPN, if it's within the Etsy hosts, the VPN should still see, hey, somebody's trying to go to Amazon.com, and they'll still be blocked, is how it should work. There's other ways to get around that, but typically you're going to really shut them down.
Got it. All right. Any other questions from the participants that joined us today? A few minutes left here. All right. Turn my camera back on here. So I don't see any other questions. So with that being said, Erin, I just want to thank you for your time and joining us today. This is a recorded session that we will upload to our YouTube channel. So I'll send an email once that recording is made available. If you would like to share it with any colleagues or friends, definitely we do these sessions to help the community kind of understand some nitty-gritty technical topics, but we're always here to help. So we don't have the next event scheduled just yet, but those are made available on the Perimeter 83 Eventbrite listing. So please definitely check that out. You'll probably will receive an email along with the YouTube recording with the next event once it's scheduled. So, and again, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. My email address is jsmith@uat.edu, and I'm more than happy to direct you over to Erin to answer your questions. So with that, thank you for joining us today. And again, if you need anything, definitely check us out at perimeter83.com. If you're interested in getting more information about UAT, we do offer associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and just recently launched our professional certificate program. So looks like Aaron has shared his email address as well. You can reach him at ajones@uat.edu. So with that, we will conclude today's event, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come out here.
Of course, thank you.